right, we're here at LogsEnd in Ottawa with Rob Black, the VP of Sales and Marketing, but also co-owner.
Yep.
I just love what they do here and what they offer, and the fact that it's here in Ottawa is especially exciting because that's where I grew up as well and where we're set up. So we want to take this opportunity to get to know Rob and get to know LogsEnd, what they do. But I do want to start at the beginning, being Canadian. Hockey was a big part of your childhood, from what I understand. So I'd like to kind of start at that. How did that play into everything? And with your dad, I think he was a goalie.
Yeah, my dad played major junior hockey back for the St. Catharines Blackhawks and the Cornwall Royals. My brother was a pretty good goaltender as well. Played locally in Carleton Place. Even got a call up to the 67s. Didn't play a lot there, but they were the talented ones. Yeah. They were the athletes. I was more of an arts student, but I still loved the game. So when I went to Canterbury for high school, we didn't have a hockey program there, so I got together with my civics teacher and we founded one, and I was a student coach of the grade 13s. Nice. We had fun with that. I ended up sticking around after I graduated. I came back and I coached for 4 or 5 years, and then spent some time managing a local junior A team, the Nepean Raiders. So we had a lot of fun with that. Actually, one of my kids, Ben Sexton, just played his first game for the Ottawa Senators a couple of nights ago.
Oh, really?
Which was a great Connecticut local kid. Worked hard, but
that's exciting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That must be rewarding, right? Like working and like being a leader in that.
It was you
learn a lot too.
Great experience. It was an odd setting because I was really young for what I was doing. I was 22, 23. Most of the other GMs are in their 40s, but it gave me a bit of a head start, I think, on kind of the responsibilities of kind of running an organization and what comes with that. And I mean, at that stage, if I made some mistakes, it was okay. It was a good place to learn. And but I mean, just like I'm sure many people would say, like hockey was just a great place to make a ton of connections and friends that stick with you throughout life.
Yeah, for sure. LogsEnd came from a passion of your father's.
Oh, my dad, yeah.
And well, just explain a little bit about what LogsEnd is, and I have a ton of questions.
Yeah,
for
certainly.
you.
Well, LogsEnd. My father, he had an electrical contracting business here in Ottawa, and they just kind of focused on custom computer rooms and government projects, and that was kind of the real company for 30 years. And in the late 90s, to get an idea about my dad, he's loves to work. He's always into something, can't really stop himself. There is no sitting down watching a movie and relaxing. So Black Electric had some good people in there that were starting to kind of manage it and run it, and he was looking for something to do, and he was hoping to create some jobs up in his old hometown of Shawville, Quebec. And just based on a love of history, he knew a lot about the logging drives of the Ottawa Valley, and he started doing some research and heard about some of these logs that were under the river and at the bottom of the river, and went into archives, started doing a lot of research, got a side scan sonar machine, went out in the boat, started checking the river, hunting for logs, and came across
like a treasure hunter.
Like a treasure hunter, yeah. He used to always make references to the Beachcombers, but I'm a little young for that show. But anyway, so he realized how much wood is actually in the river, and from there taught himself how to scuba dive, did the lessons, and started roping logs.
So LogsEnd will literally go in, pull the logs out of the Ottawa River.
That's right.
And then turn them into
wide plank flooring. Yeah.
Explain the process. So you work the boats, from what I understand, too, right?
I worked on the recovery boats and in the mill.
Explain how much work is involved in actually pulling a log out of the river, getting it from the river ultimately to their house so that they can walk all over it, essentially.
Yeah, well, it starts usually an early summer morning, and our dive team hits the water. So there'll be a dive team, a couple of divers, and some dive tenders, and they'll go down. Usually, we usually kind of range from 30 to 80 feet of water, and we would use rope each log individually. There'd be a little float on the end that they would release. It would come to the surface.
So when that float comes up, they know
Yep, we
on the boat to start pulling the log up.
basically a second boat comes along, our recovery boat. We usually let the dive team kind of get ahead of us a little bit, and like in some areas you're finding 30-40 logs in a very close-knit area. There's a lot of wood in the river.
And how big are these logs?
Some diameter up to 2 feet, some bigger. We didn't really take anything that was under 12 inches, and we weren't trying to be choosy. It's just, but there was just that much wood. You had the opportunity to say, okay, well, let's go for the big stuff at first.
Yeah.
Then the recovery boat comes along, which was usually a group of students. Had a lot of fun on those boats with some good friends. From there, we would pull the logs up by hand. Some of us would use a winch, me, occasionally for the heavier ones. And then that gets brought to shore at the end of the day. A good day, you're pulling 100 logs. So you're getting into a large amount of wood pretty quickly.
So if you're pulling 100 logs, how many square feet of flooring you turn that into? I guess it depends on whether you're doing engineered with it or
if it's just doing solid, because in each log, hey, if you can get 70 square feet or 70 board feet or to 120, like that's a good amount of wood, and that's a decent sized log. And then from there, yes, if we're engineering it, you're basically doubling or tripling your yield.
What are the advantages to have an engineered hardwood floor versus a solid?
Stability.
Like,
and it's really not even close. Like at this stage now, we still offer solid, but I'd say 90% of our floors are engineered.
Our stability, you mean like the fluctuation, with regards to humidity or durability?
Yeah, just for expansion and contraction. East-west on the board and north-south. Our climate here, all winter. This was a particularly dry winter I found, but if we weren't running humidifiers here in the showroom, it was 15%, 16% humidity, and that's dry.
What should it be for your wood?
40. And that's not just us, that's any wood. And I do get a pile of people who just had the home show saying, well, shouldn't it not matter? Your logs were soaked anyways, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. Our wood still reacts the way wood out of the bush does. So
I was actually watching videos, and when they show the end grain of the wood that they're pulling up, you can see that they're actually, like, it's dense.
Yep.
Does the wood become harder sitting underwater for that long, or?
That's actually basically because it's old growth wood, usually virgin forest. So those are just tighter growth rings. What basically that comes from is when the logs were growing there, the trees were growing the first go around, it was just a much tighter canopy. So everything was fighting for nutrients, sunlight. It was just forest that had never been touched before, so everything grew so much slower. It just makes for a much denser wood. That's why our old growth pine is 40-50% harder than the pine you find today.
Okay, so what's the reason for pulling one at a time out, as opposed to, other than the fact that you're maybe pulling them by hand, but is there any environmental aspects to consider when you're pulling rocks?
Absolutely. You want to be careful with it. We don't do any dredging or anything like that. They would never even dream of issuing us a permit if we did, and ethically, how could you? So no, it's just part of the way to get it done. You have to carefully remove and not damage the river bottom.
Like, who are you getting your permits from?
Also, there's a number of different, on both provincial and federal governments, but Ministry of Natural Resources is the big one.
And then you need to prove to them that you're doing it.
Yeah, basically, and they've come out and checked this out and watched before. And Ottawa River being a federal waterway, we actually have both provinces we work with.
The plywood for your engineered hardwood, where do you get sourcing your plywood for that?
We used to use like a Baltic birch, like a Russian plywood, but now we've been using on our 3/4 inch core. We use an ash core, so Ontario ash, effectively. And
did you get a lot of those trees because of the ash borer?
We did.
The trees had to come down anyway.
That ash was also pretty good firewood. We bought an absolute pile from the city, and when it first happened, one of our bright ideas that ended up not being being a little bit more complicated, as we started cutting into all those ash logs, full of nails. just
Oh,
full
really?
of nails. Like from, I don't know if it was used for clotheslines or whatever. So anyways, we weren't able to, we had visions of beautiful wide plank reclaimed ash flooring, but what it's turned into is basically this desk we're sitting at.
So for the viewers, so what happened with the ash trees here in Ottawa?
Basically, all throughout Ontario, the emerald ash borer, basically an infestation that started killing all the ash trees, and the city kind of marked them all to be gone. And
What would have happened if they didn't take them down?
well, it could have spread to other trees, I believe, and
Yeah.
caused a real issue.